Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, check this out. Looking at the price of Theta token. I love Theta. I think it's one of the coolest projects out there. I mean, you look at it like uh, Airbnb for information, or Airbnb for video streaming services, or anything like data streaming, things like that. I think it's a cool project. But fundamental, whatever. We're looking at price. Um, by the way, fundamental will be the dictator of price when utility drives the market. Right now, speculation is driving the market. Fear, greed will always drive the market. But at the same time, we need regulations in order to have utility driven concepts, utility driven blockchain, people actually using it, not just buying it just in hopes that it'll go up in price, but buying it with the anticipation of actually using it, right? So that it can solve real world problems. And, right now people are using Theta for data and things like that. But um, as a whole, we want to see people, because right now crypto is basically what? Speculation, investment. We want to see it utility. And that's where I like, XRP and things like that, because I think it has real utility. And I believe Theta does as well. I like Matic, Polygon. There's many different coins out there that have real utility. But anyway, let's talk about the price. What we can see in this here is quite interesting. First, let's start at the beginning. We have this beautiful base right here. Remember, the bigger the base, the higher in space, right? So we can see the price started out, and basically this is a Wyckoff accumulation, right? So you have a high, another high close to it, and then you have a spring or a creek. So basically, you have this pump, and then you have this creek to the downside, or you can call it a spring. Sometimes it breaks the low, but oftentimes it just kind of curls up. Let me see if I could put a picture up so you can see. So here is an example of Wyckoff accumulation. I'm going to shrink it down, and you can see here. Let me get my arrow. You can see here we have this three-wave move to the upside, a move to the upside. We have this big move to the downside, big move to the downside. And then what do we see? We see this up thrust, but it doesn't take out that high. Same thing here. We have this up thrust, but it doesn't take out the high. And then what do we see? We see this creek here. They call it a creek or a spring, or whatever you want to call it. I call it a spring, and it sort of, springs or creaks around. Same thing here. It springs, it creaks around, and then boom, it breaks out. Boom, it breaks out, and then what does it do? It's testing here and testing here. Same thing here, testing here, and then it goes to the freaking moon. But in this case, it went to freaking Mars, because this thing was massive. It was massive. So that's what we saw here. It was Wyckoff accumulation, and we had an amazing rally. So you can see here, this is a base right here. We're ranging inside a base, and then we explode to the upside. Ranging in a base, explode to the upside. So keeping that in mind, let's go to where we are today. So we have a sideways base. We have a massive explosion. So I like this to be wave. This is wave 1. This is wave 2. This is wave 3. And now we're in wave 4. Most likely going to enter wave 5. Now, you could argue that this whole thing is wave 1, this is wave 2, and this is wave 3, and that could be very well be the case. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter at the moment. We'll get there when we get there. but let's try to figure out what's going on at the moment. So to me, just by looking at this chart, it looks incredibly bullish from the macro perspective, not meaning bullish is going to break out the next day. But the reason why is because you have, like I said, this sideways base, and then you have a flagpole. This flagpole is planted in this base. So think of this like the foundation right here. This is the flagpole, and this is the flag. So what do we call that? A bull flag. We are in a massive bull flag. We had 5 waves to the upside, and perhaps there's a lot of different ways you can count it, but let's just look at it from a traditional perspective. So I'm going to take everything off the screen. Well, first of all, let me show you this here. We are very close to the upward trend. I mean, if you look closely, we are literally breaking out. We got rejected right here. Let's actually zoom in a little bit further. Let's go to the 3-day chart. So from a 3-day perspective, we did break out and we back tested the top of the bull flag. So this is good. This is a good development for theta. Remember, we've been in this downward trend for a very long time. Very long time. So, and we just been going down and down and down. So what's happening is, we're getting exhausted because we see these moves and these counter moves, right? And then we kind of go. So what we see there, that's a 5-wave move right there. And we can see after that 5-wave move, we had an up thrust, but look, it didn't really take out the low. Not really. This is how you know things are getting exhausted, right? There's no more sellers. Sellers are running out, right? So at that point, you got to start looking for a reversal. So where is the reversal coming from? Well, just like back here, I'm looking for something like this, where we have a beautiful base, right? And we can sort of start to see that, but instead of a flat base, you're having more of a descending base. So if I can just do this, it's not perfect at all, but nothing ever is, right? So there's a couple ways you could do this. Channel. Let me try it that way. So usually when we're in a descending channel, eventually it likes to break to the upside, right? So I'm trying to find some Wyckoff accumulation patterns in here, and at the moment I don't see any. I mean, you could argue that here's the example right here. You could argue that this is a 1, 2, 3 move to the upside. We have a 1, 2, 3 move to the upside, and then you have this secondary test in phase B. You come down here, secondary test in phase B. And then you have this up thrust right here without taking out this low, this high. And then what do we see here? Like I just said, we have an up thrust. Same here. We have an up thrust without taking out this high. It's a lower high. And then what do we see here? We see a move to the downside and sort of starting to flatten out and curl up. Same thing here. We have a move to the downside. This did take out the low. So this example would be a different schematic. So let me see if I have that one. 1 second. Okay, perfect. So look at this new example. You can see here, this is a real spring phase where the spring phase comes all the way down and then it actually takes out the low. The reason why it does that is it's trying to grab liquidity. You see, the people who control the market are the market makers, right? The market makers They can't just buy billions of dollars today or tomorrow. They got to pick their spots. And the way they do that is they either have to buy a breakdown or sell a breakdown, or vice versa, a breakout, right? Because, for example, let me just show you here. I'm going to take that off and I'm going to draw two lines here. It's not the perfect Wyckoff scenario. It's sort of like a falling or a wailing Wyckoff, but it still somewhat applies. So you can see here that we were in this range, right? Boom, boom, boom. When we broke below the range, market makers grab this liquidity because people have their stop losses right there, right? So when the stop loss gets triggered, an influx of liquidity enters the market, and that's when the market makers can either buy or sell because there's a lot of liquidity at that moment because you're tapping into the liquidity. Think of like a resistance point, like a big keg of beer. Once you tap it, you know it's tapped. So okay, so here's the spring right here, and we can see a spring right here. This is a good sign, right? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the fifth could be perhaps truncated. But now what we see, so this is actually good. Looking at it and going it over, this is actually very bullish in my opinion, because check this out. Not only we have this three-way move to the upside, right? We have a three-way move to the upside. We have this down move, right? We have this down move that hits the resistance. And then we come up to the support. We come up to the support. And then we spring all the way down. And then you can notice, see how we're flattening out right here? That is a good sign. Remember the base that I showed you earlier? The bigger the base, the higher in space. So this is a base right here. We're developing a ground support, a base. Same thing right here. So this is actually a good thing. Let me put two lines up so it can make it more even. And probably put that one right there. So like I said, this is not in a great perfect example of Wyckoff because of the way it's falling, but also falling is actually good because I'm sure you've heard of a falling wedge. You can look at this also as some type of falling channel or a falling wedge pattern, you know, or even a broadening falling pattern. Regardless, they're both very bullish. So now that we established that, same thing over here. So we are sort of mimicking what's happening over here. So we have this, like I'm going to repeat myself a lot. We have this three-wave move to the upside, a down move. Three-wave move to the upside, a down move. Back to resistance, back to resistance. Then we develop the spring, we develop the spring. Same thing here. We have this three-wave move to the upside, three-wave move to the upside. We have this big down move. Same thing here, big down move. Then we have this up thrust without taking out the prior resistance. It's subjective on whether it could or it doesn't have to, right? But oftentimes it doesn't. Then we have this sort of spring phase right here. Same thing here. We have this spring phase. And then it curls up and blasts off. So we are at the curling up and blasting off part if this is going to play out. And I believe it is, because if you follow Blockchain Backer, he has a great video out there on why he believes everything is bullish at the moment. That doesn't mean we're not going to have pullbacks. But I think altcoins are primed for at least a retracement. A lot of people say all-time high and all that. I'm not really saying that has to happen. What I'm saying is I would like, whenever you have a massive bull run and then a massive crash, you need a retracement to retrace 50% of that move before you go down into a bigger bear market. I'm not saying that's going to happen. We could very well go on to our bull run. But at the end of the day, we just need at least a retracement first, and then we can start, debating whether or not if it's going to break through those retracements. So Now that we established all of that and we are literally on the bottom. So if you guys, I picked up a bunch of theta because this is not financial advice, but I bought theta simply because we are right at the lowest risk point for me to pick some up. Same thing down here. And same thing goes for a lot of other coins too. You know, they're all in unison. So wherever their spots are, yeah, there can be differences in percentages, but at the end of the day, this is called dollar cost averaging. Nobody's trying to time the market in and out. I mean, yes, I do trade, but 90% of what I do is hodl. 10% I do trade, but you know, even then, it's still difficult to time things and get it right. So we have to look to see where we are, and where I think we are is right in the spring phase. Now, the way that you can invalidate that is if we start doing this and we break this low right here, we come back up, we retest that low, and then we start rocking. That's a big red flag right there. That this thing, if that were to happen, this thing needs to come all the way down so that it can retest the base, right? A lot of times when you break out of a base, you need to come down and back test it. Well, the price never came and back tested it. This looks to me like a big bubble, right? It looks like a massive bubble that popped and it's deflating. Now, just because it's deflating doesn't mean we can't get a retracement. I'm still looking for a retracement. Now, let's see, now that we established that this could potentially be the spring, right in here, here's our spring phase, takes out the bottom, and then it reverses. Spring phase takes out the bottom. Now let's see if we get a reversal. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom in right here. I'm going to go down, let's see, maybe the 4-hour chart. And I'm going to come up here. Now look at that, people. Look at that. What do you see? You see it? So check this out. So we basically zoomed all the way in, right? And now we're looking at this spring phase. This is right here. So if you zoom in on this spring phase, what's actually happening is another mini Wyckoff accumulation event. So check this out. Let me zoom in. I'm going to take these off the screen, these lines, and I'm going to take this off. And I'm going to just zoom in on the, let's go down to maybe the 12-hour chart. Okay. So what we can see here, put these two lines on. Boom. Same type of thing. What's happening right now is theta is developing a base. So remember, we're zoomed all the way in right at this little point right here. So we're zoomed all the way in, and what's happening is we're creating another base. And this base is reminiscent of a Wyckoff accumulation. Now look at this. We have 3 waves to the upside. We're on the 12-hour chart. If I zoom in, you'll see it better, but I'm just going to keep it here. We have a 3-wave move to the upside up to resistance, just like the beginning of the video and the second part of the video. Same thing. We have a 3-wave move up to the resistance. Same thing here. 3-wave move up to the resistance. Then what do we see? We see a move to the downside. We see a move to the downside. And then look at this as our map or our legend, right? So then we have a big move to the upside, right? We have a pretty big move to the upside to the top of the range without necessarily taking out the top, right? Here's the top here, and here's the lower high, right? And then what's next? Everybody knows the spring phase. Now we're going into the spring phase, and look what happened. It beautifully was creaking down, you know, went into the spring phase, and then boom, broke the liquidity. So what happens? Remember when I said, when you break liquidity, right here, this is where the market makers are targeting, right there, because this is where there's an unlimited source of liquidity, because the traders are trading the range the billionaires, the whales, are trading when it breaks out of the range, right? Nobody wants to touch it when it breaks below the range, or because if they do, what happened was people were trading the range, and then when we broke below the range, everybody went short, but they all got tricked, right? Because of Wyckoff. Wyckoff is just basically a market maker special. So when we break below the resistance, that is the trader's instinct, right, to go short. But if you're smart money, you're actually going long because you can identify the Wyckoff accumulation pattern. You're understanding that this is a spring phase. So when we broke below that and closed below that, the retail trader's like, yes, we can go short now. Yes, yay, short, 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 short. And then all of a sudden, boom, they get wiped out like nothing. And they're like, what happened? I don't understand. Well, it was a spring phase, right? So we accelerated. So this yellow circle is the equivalent of where we are now. So this is just all, my speculation. It doesn't mean it has to pan out. I could be totally dead wrong on this stuff here, but it looks promising. It looks promising because we have a Wyckoff accumulation pattern inside a much bigger Wyckoff accumulation pattern, right? Which is this one right here. So we just have to wait and see what happens. But let's say that this was the spring, right? And we did break out. Now we're on our way, right? So what could we expect at this very moment? Well, we really need to get above here. So here's that first wave. We could come down and back test this area right here, about 60 cents, come back up. We want to break this high. And once we break the high, we want to kind of circle around, maybe bull flag, and then accelerate like big time. So that's how it would look. I could take that off the screen because everybody understands it now. There's another one here. So let me go back to the 3-day chart. So that's what it could look like. And that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. Similar to over here. This was our major Wyckoff accumulation pattern. There was our spring. And look at that. It happened right at C19, right? C19 was no accident. It happened right there on the day that we needed that spring. And then look what happened after that. Boom, it had just exploded like one of the best. Theta was one of the best altcoin bull runs on planet Earth. I mean, look at this. It went from literally 4 cents all the way up to like, what was it, $15, $16? That's insane. I mean, if you would have bought just, a couple grand right here, I mean, look, you could have been a millionaire. I didn't get it. I didn't get it all the way. I was buying up in here in the 12-cent area, a little bit in the 23, but I didn't nearly get enough because I was busy looking at others. But I should have went super heavy on Theta. But I don't think it's over yet, right? I mean, think about right here. We are literally right at this wave here. So we still have all of this to retrace and perhaps even go beyond that. So let's take this off. This. So this is where we are right here. And that's what I think could potentially happen is, a break of structure, probably a retest. And we really need to bull flag out of here. This right here would be the bigger Wyckoff pattern. Remember, I zoomed in right here on the small Wyckoff pattern. Now we're zoomed out on the bigger Wyckoff pattern. So the bigger Wyckoff pattern, we can see it bull flagging out here potentially, and then continuing to rock and roll to the upside. So that would be my main count. Now, is it going to break into new all-time high? I have no idea. But what I do know is a retracement is very, very likely. We haven't had a retracement. look at this. We've had this massive move to the upside, a massive move to the downside, but things just don't keep going down, 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 down. It doesn't work that way. We have to have some type of retracement before going down, or we're just gonna rock it to the upside and break out and complete the 5 waves, right? So it's hard to tell what it's gonna do. I'm not predicting anything. All I'm saying is, look, we got to get back up into this area right in here. So I'm thinking between $4.24 and $8.66. That is step number 1. If we can break above that, if we can break above that box, then this is what I'm anticipating right here. So we take a Fibonacci retracement, we come all the way down here, contingent this is the bottom, then I want to see a 4.236 extension, and oh my goodness, that comes in at between, I want to say $68. So right now we're at 65 cents, 64 cents. I want to see it hit $64, and that would be a full Fibonacci extension. So we have to wait and see what happens. Let's see if there's any confluence with that if we take up the trend-based Fibonacci. So the trend-based, I'll put it here, I like to be conservative, to the very top. We'll bring that back down. And what do we see? We see the 786 and the 886 coming in right in the same area. So I would suggest, if I was holding theta, which I am, and we do break above the first green box, so if we break above this box, if we break above $9 to $9.50, then I'm going to be targeting between $40 and $65. So it's not going to be exact, and there is no exact target. There never is. It's just about how you want to exit your position, or whatever you want to do. This is not financial advice. This is just speculation on Fibonacci targets and Wyckoff accumulation patterns, and looking at this as a massive impulse wave, and then this is a corrective wave. So now we need another, at least a retracement, if not a powerful impulse wave. So guys, looking at this chart, I'm getting very excited. Just look at this. If we can get up through here and break above it, back test it, we have a straight shot at getting up into here, which is that major target area. And then what would that be? That would be a 1 wave, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. That would be a 5-wave move, and that would make sense to me, right? If we were to, start coming down from here, let's say we do get up in here to $5 to $6, and then we start coming down, right? And we retest this top of this base right here, that would be okay too. And that would sort of line up with the stock market as well. But either way, I'm looking for a retracement. So if that retracement doesn't come and we just start crashing to the downside and continuing to go down, then that would actually be a good thing, because then it would shorten the bear market up. So either we come up here for a pit stop, then come all the way down here, and that would take all the way till another couple years. That would take at least another 2 years. Or we can just rip the Band-Aid off right now and come all the way down, back test the top of this range, and then start working our way up to the upside. So there's a couple different ways. There was a couple different ways you can look at it. It's all perspective, right? Personally, I want us to just come all the way up through these retracements and then continue marching on. That's option number 1. Option number 2, We go into the retracement, we get rejected, we come all the way down. That lines up with the stock market. That's option number 2. Option number 3 is we just continue to fall down and backtest this area. But based off this Wyckoff accumulation, I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're, at the very least, we're going to get some type of retracement. So what do you guys think? Are you guys bullish? Are you guys bearish? It's very, interesting concept here, but let me just clear up some of the screen so we can have a clear picture of what is happening. So I'm going to take everything off and I'm going to do one more drawing, and this is hopefully what it's going to happen. So we started off, this is a recap, we started off in a Wyckoff accumulation. We developed a big base. The bigger the base, the higher in space, right? Then we accelerated like a monster. This was our flagpole. And now we're in this big fat bull flag, right? And in the bottom of the bull flag, we can see another Wyckoff accumulation pattern. Inside that Wyckoff accumulation pattern, we can see another Wyckoff accumulation pattern. Now, what I would like to see happen is us continuing to march our way, break out, back test this top of the range right here at $1.18, then continue to rise until we get to the retracement area. This is all a retracement. And then from there, I really want to see us break out to all new time high. If it doesn't, then we're going to continue the bear market until we backtest this breakout zone. So, option number 1, boom. Option number 2, boom. Option number 3, we just continue to crash and then go boom. So it's all subjective. We don't really know what's going to happen. But if I had to choose, I would say retracement. First, and then evaluate. If we can break through, great. If not, then damn, it's going to take some time. But hopefully that helped, guys. I'm looking at big targets for theta. One more time, I'll pull the target up here. I'm looking at, $65. I would just say be conservative, say between $50 and $60. So $50 to $60 theta, is it possible? I think so. The reason why is because look how powerful that wave was. That was a monster wave. I mean, let me just take a measuring tool from the top of the base, not even from the bottom, but from the top of the base, and I go all the way up. That's like 13,000%. That's insane. That's insane. That's crazy. And right now, theta is only less than $600 million market cap. I mean, you can see like Cardano and XRP, they're at 30, 40, 50, 60 billion market caps at times. If theta ever got to just 20 billion, it can surely get to these targets very easily. I know it seems like a long stretch saying $50, $60 theta, but come on, it's definitely possible. And especially we can see maybe some divergence. I don't have my RSI up, but if the price is going down, RSI is going up, or vice versa, we can see divergences, and that could play into it as well. So let's see what happens. It's looking like it's wanting to bottom. You can see how it's accelerated, and then it's starting to curl up here. So we want to see it just freaking moon already. So let's go.